Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? So today I want to talk about the difference between Google Ads and Facebook Ads, the benefits of each platform, which one is right for your company, and teaching you some of the lessons that our clients have had to learn about each platform the hard way, so that way you don't have to. Now, to be clear, both platforms are extremely capable at what they do, but they do things completely differently, and they have different strengths and different weaknesses. So that's really what I want to be talking about today, so that way you can pick the right platform for your company. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Hunter Larson. I'm the co-founder of Second Take. And in the past 18 months, we generated our clients a little over $17 million from our advertising strategies that we implement for them. And we've managed a little over $1 million in that time. So needless to say, we get our clients a fantastic return on investment. And some of the things that we're going to be talking about today is the reason that we've been able to get our clients such a huge return on investment. So if you're a home service business doing over 7 figures every single year, in this video, that's what I want to talk about. I want to show you exactly which platform to pick. So let's get right into it. Now, first and foremost, the first thing that I want to clear up is budget, right? Now, with Google Ads, the thing that I constantly see is, depending on your industry and area, cost per clicks can be extremely expensive depending on how many competitors you have, what industry you're in. And obviously, if you're in a city, it's going to be more expensive than if you're out in the middle of nowhere. Now, so the general rule of thumb for Google Ads is that we need to get 10 clicks per day. Okay, so generally what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a look at the average cost per click in your area for keywords that would be relevant to your business. So as an example, if you're an HVAC contractor, best HVAC company near me, right? That could be a keyword that you want to rank for, or emergency furnace repair near me, emergency AC repair near me, right? So what you want to do is you want to go into your ads manager, you want to go to the tools section of Google Ads and look at the keyword planner. In there, you'll type in some keywords and then it's going to tell you what your average cost per click is. So the general rule of thumb is you want 10 clicks a day. So let's break this down so that way it makes it more clear. Let's say that your average cost per click in your area is $50 per click. That means that you need to have a budget of $500 per day for it to really make sense for you to start running Google Ads. Now, could it work with less than that? Probably, right? However, is it really worth risking your money just because you want to run some Google Ads, but it might not be profitable, right? And the reason that it takes 10 clicks per day is that Google needs enough data to be able to optimize your campaign for you, right? And if it doesn't get that data, then it just won't ever get better. You're going to continue to spend money. You're not going to get that many leads. And if you do, they're going to be extremely expensive. So you really need to get those 10 clicks per day. So $500 a day, just so that way we're all on the same page, comes out to about $15,000 per month. So if your business is not at a point where you can really afford $15,000 every single month in advertising budget, then Google Ads is probably not going to be the move for you. So let's go ahead and move into Facebook, because I'm going to guess that the majority of you are not going to start spending for the first time ever on advertising. If it's your first time, $15,000 per month. So $15,000 a month. How do you understand if that's actually a budget that you can afford? So the general rule of thumb is to take your net margin, so your net that you get after all expenses paid, right? You take your net and then you spend 30% of that to ads. Now, the reason that we like to do 30% is it gives you plenty of breathing room. It gives you 70% net to be able to pay for various trucks, any repairs that you need on equipment and stuff that your team has, while still being aggressive enough that you can, start to scale pretty rapidly. So if you're making, let's say, $200,000 per month and your net is 30% of that, that means that you have $60,000 per month that you can actually spend every single month on advertising. Now, it doesn't all have to be to Google, right? It does not need to be all on Google, but that's just the general rule of thumb. And generally for most contractors, to get $200,000 per month in net, you're going to be sitting at about a $12 million business. So just take a look at your net and then say, okay, I should spend 30% of that to ads. Now, anyway, moving on. Let's talk about Facebook ads. Let's talk about some of the pros and the cons of Facebook. Okay, so let's discuss the cons. So Facebook is really, really great at a few things, but there's a lot of things that you definitely want to keep in mind if you're going to be running Facebook ads for your business. So the first one is that it's easy to launch. So easy to launch, hard to optimize. So what I mean by that is Facebook ads has put a lot of money and time into creating a platform that basically anybody can go on there. They can click a few buttons, they can select a lead objective for their campaign and get this campaign rocking and rolling, then you'll probably get some leads. Now, the hard thing about Facebook ads though, and the reason that I don't consider this a pro, is you can launch the ads, but then actually making adjustments and analyzing the data and knowing, okay, what ads do we need to make next? When do we make ads? What buttons do I click to optimize this campaign? How do do I track the audiences, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is quite difficult, right? If you're not somebody who has experience buying ads. So the next con is that it does require management, kind of tying into it's hard to optimize. So Facebook ads is not a set it and forget it platform. If you are currently working with an agency and you can tell that they just aren't making ads for you on a regular basis, you can click the link in the description and we'll have an assessment call with you and see what they're doing for you and see if they're actually doing a good job. If they are, obviously, we'll let you know. But if they're not, we can potentially talk about working together. With management, it does require daily monitoring. You need to look at the campaigns on a regular basis. So just keep that in mind when you're running Facebook ads. It does require, constant management. Okay, the next con is that it requires you to produce ads. So it requires videos and images. So I say this is a con. I mean, this is also transparently one of the pros, but if your business is not set up to be able to record videos, take a lot of pictures, right? If you don't have a way to collect those types of assets for your business, then this can be very challenged, right? I mean, this makes Facebook ads way harder than Google, because Google, you just need to take pictures once and then you can basically put that on your website and you're done. Well, with Facebook ads, if you run an ad for a month, right? Most of your audience that are, high net worth individuals that are going to pay you guys lots of money for the projects that your company can install are not going to actually respond to that ad anymore. And so the way that you combat that is you have to constantly be making new ads, right? Which can be quite demanding depending on your business. Okay, so the next con is it's not good for emergency services, right? Let's say that you want, emergency plumbing repair type projects, or water leakage, water heater outages, stuff like that. Facebook is really not great for that because it is a demand generation platform. So we're interrupting people scrolling through their cat videos and going on Facebook to see pictures of friends. So it's really not great for emergency, right? That's going to be more of a Google Ads thing. But that is a con of Facebook ads. If that's what your company really does mostly, Facebook might not be the best place for you. So just keep that in mind when you're deciding whether you're going to go with Google or Facebook. Okay, the next con, and this is for home service businesses in general, just from working with them, it does need a sales process. So you do need to have a pretty dialed sales process. And the reason that that's the case is because, like I mentioned earlier, we are interrupting them while they're scrolling through cat videos, scrolling through videos of their friends and family. So we need to make sure that we have a process that's capable of taking somebody who might be just moderately interested to, okay, yeah, I want to get a consultation, to, yeah, I'll pay you money, right? And most contracting businesses that we've talked to do not have a sales process that can do that, right? Because most contracting businesses that are good, at least, grow from referrals, right? And referrals have already kind of gone through interested, yeah, sure, I'll get a consultation. So by the time you talk to them, they're already like, yeah, I already know you're good. I want to talk to you guys. They already have a project in mind, likely. Just keep that in mind as well, that Facebook ads does require a little bit more of a sales process than Google ads will, because Google ads, right, we'll get into that in a second. Okay, so next up, let's talk about the pros of Facebook ads. Now, there's quite a few pros, right? Now, I understand that some of these might be kind of scary, these cons, but the pros are actually, in my opinion, they far outweigh the cons with Facebook ads. The first one is that leads are cheap, right? And then I'm just going to say, compared to Google. Generally speaking, Facebook ads are going to be between 40 to 80% cheaper than Google ads, right? So that's a huge pro. If you have a sales team and you have a sales process, then Facebook is absolutely the platform you want to be on, because you're going to get a lot more volume for the budget that you have, right? So it's a fantastic platform for that. If you're looking for volume and a lot of leads that your sales team can talk to and nurture. Okay, can work with small budgets. So because you're not paying per click, but you're paying to show the ad to people, so per impression, you can actually have a fairly successful campaign on Facebook with a fairly small budget. Now, small budget is relative, right? If you have a budget of $20 per day, Facebook is going to be pretty hard to optimize, right? I mean, you might get some leads, but you're never going to really see that snowball effect that happens at larger budgets. So for us, a small budget is about $6,000 per month, which is about $200 per day. That's usually like the starting point that we like to recommend on Facebook, because it gives us the ability to optimize your campaign and make things better with time, but it also gives you the ability to show your ads to thousands and thousands of people instead of just a couple thousand, right? Like maybe possibly even 100,000 if you're in a big city. So it can work with small budgets, but generally speaking, you should have, a decent budget to be able to be successful on Facebook. Okay. Another pro is that it builds your brand. So as I was talking before, you're going to be creating videos and images when you're running Facebook ads. And the good thing about that is because we're interrupting people, right, they will start to see your company more frequently. And as that happens, when somebody sees a truck that's wrapped or something, they'll recognize your brand. They'll go, oh, I've seen them. They might not know where, right? That's the thing about advertising is it's subconscious. So they might see your brand on Facebook and then they see your truck out in the wild and they're like, oh my gosh, this company must be a big deal. I've heard of them, right? I mean, think about the last time you saw a company that you were like, I don't know why, but I've heard of them, right? You instantly have just a slightly better impression about the company. So that's a huge pro for a lot of contractors is it can build your brand and your reputation quite quickly, actually. You don't need to spend for, 12 months to get this effect. Like within 3 months, you'll start to notice people coming to you and saying, oh, I've heard of you guys, right? That you might not have gotten before. Okay, another pro is that retargeting is easy, or not easy, but it's cheap. And I'm also gonna say it's effective. So one of the great things about Facebook is that we can put a pixel on your website, we can send it to your landing page, we can pixel literally tons of things that have to do with your company. So what this allows us to do is it allows us to start showing ads to people after they visited the website, after they visited the landing page, if they've submitted a lead form. One of the things that we do at our agency is we'll actually start to show them videos of someone from your team, possibly you, the owner, actually answering frequently asked questions, handling objections before they ever schedule that consultation, right? Which builds that familiarity, right? And it gets their questions answered, which shows professionalism and it allows prospects to start to sell themselves before your sales team even gets in front of the homeowner. So it's a spectacularly powerful thing that you really can't do on Google Ads as effectively. Cool. So that's Facebook. So if we just kind of do a quick recap. So we have cons are, they're easy to launch, hard to optimize. They do require management. Requires videos and images on a constant basis. They're really not great for emergency services, and your sales process must be dialed to really make Facebook ads profitable. Now, the pros are the leads are very cheap, so you can have lots of volume compared to Google. You can work with smaller budgets, so you don't need to spend $15,000 a month to make Facebook work. It builds your brand and your reputation, which can grow your company over time, even if it's not directly attributable to the ad, right? And then also retargeting is cheap and effective and allows your sales team to be more efficient and more effective as we start to retarget people that have come in and have questions and objections. We can answer those via retargeting, right? So it's a very powerful platform. So let's talk about Google. Alrighty, so some of the cons of Google Ads. So as mentioned before, one of the big cons is that you pay per click. Now, the reason that I call this a con is because you're not paying to show the ad to people. You're paying for them to click on the ad, whether they convert or not, right? So they could click on the ad, go to your website, decide that they don't want to submit a lead form, they don't want to call you, and you had to pay for that, right? Where on Facebook, you don't do that, right? If they see the ad, then you pay for it, but they could click on it 1,000 times and you're not going to get charged anymore. They could become a lead, you're not going to get charged anymore, right? So that's a huge con of Google because cost per clicks can be extremely expensive depending on your business and area. Another con is not much brand building, okay? So generally speaking, with Google Ads, you're going to be competing on offer and you're going to be competing on how good is your ad compared to your competitors in the area. Now, obviously, if you're showing up consistently in the Google search, it can build some brand awareness, but there's really not as much of that happening on Google Ads because people see just the text, right? They just see like a headline on Google and they might click on it and they might spend some time on the landing page. They might notice the logo, they may not, right? So it's really not great for brand building, but like Facebook, where we're showing the ads consistently to people. But it can be a very good brand building play if you already have Facebook going, you have a big brand, and now you're looking to diversify to Google. Okay, so you need Google reviews. So you need pretty substantial amount of Google reviews. So the reason that I say this is what will typically happen because they're already on Google. Let's say they click on your ad and then they start to feel like maybe this company might not be legit for whatever reason, right? They might look you up on Google, right? And look up the name of your company. And if you don't have a lot of Google reviews, you're unlikely to get that conversion, right? So if you only have 5 to 10, 15, 20 reviews and your competitors have, 2, 4, possibly thousands of reviews, you're probably going to be struggling to get Google Ads to convert quite well. So that is something to keep in mind as well. Another con is that it's highly competitive for top 3 spots. So unlike Facebook that has basically unlimited real estate, people can scroll on Facebook infinitely, right? Like I'm sure you've scrolled on Facebook for quite a long time or Instagram and you've never hit the end, right? Because it just loads consistently. So on Google, that's not the case, right? Generally speaking, there's like the top 3 ads are the only ads that really ever get clicked, which means that it's extremely competitive for those top 3 places. And you might be competing against companies that have budgets that are twice the size of yours, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times your budget, and it's going to be extremely hard to compete with those types of businesses. So that is a huge con of Google Ads, depending on your area. So just keep that in mind that, you're going to be competing for those top 3 spots, and there is limited real estate on Google Ads. Okay, another con is that small budgets can be a waste of money. Okay, so as talked about before, you really need to get those 10 clicks per day to really optimize your Google Ads. So if you have a small budget, you're probably just going to burn money. Probably shouldn't be running Google Ads if that's the case. Okay, another con is that optimizations are complex. So unlike Facebook, where basically, the optimizations require just a lot of creative output, and being able to analyze data to say, okay, this video worked, this ad didn't, right? And then let's do more of what worked. On Google Ads, it's a little bit more complex than that. You're having to bid against competitors, you're in the auctions, you're adding keywords, negating keywords, you're doing all kinds of complex zip code targeting, and audience segmenting. It's going to be very difficult if you don't know what you're doing. In fact, I've actually seen it so that way, if someone doesn't know what they're doing with Google Ads, as they start to optimize, they're actually make the campaign worse. So sometimes it's even better to, if you don't know what you're doing, to just run a Google ad and don't touch it at all, right? And hope for the best, right? Hope that Google figures out how to optimize for you. So just keep that in mind with Google Ads. You are going to be kind of limited on what you can actually optimize if you don't know what you're doing. Now let's talk about the pros of Google. There's a lot of pros here as well. So the first one is high intent leads. So generally speaking, Google Ads is demand capture, right? So Facebook is demand generation, Google is demand capture. So there has to be demand for your service, right? So if you are a roofer and someone looks up roofing companies near me, right? That person is likely already in the sales process. Going to put themselves through the sales process to become a customer of some roofing company nearby. So when you call the lead, they're probably going to already have the budget. They're going to be looking for a company to help them almost immediately. So the leads are pretty high intent, so you don't need to have as a robust sales process. Although obviously that can't hurt, right? So that's a huge positive. Okay, which leads me to my next one, which is higher close rate and shorter sales cycle. All right, so because the leads are so high intent, they kind of already bottom in the funnel, you're going to have a higher close rate, and you're also going to have a shorter sales cycle because you're not taking somebody who's kind of interested to consult, to booked, to paid, right? You're taking somebody who's already interested, just getting them on the consult and then getting them closed, right? So you're going to have a easier time to close deals, and you're going to have that shorter sales cycle on Google Ads. Okay, another pro is doesn't require constant creation of ads. So unlike Facebook, where you're going to be making ads basically every single month, making new ads all the time, changing what you're saying, changing the environment, et cetera, on Google Ads, you really don't need to do that, right? You basically set it, you optimize the ad copy so that way you get more clicks. You maybe change the landing page occasionally. But at the end of the day, it's really set it and forget it, right? Then you optimize, obviously, but you're not really creating new things all the time. Okay. So next up, we have that they're highly controllable. So the nice thing about Google Ads is that they're very highly controllable. Now, what I mean by that is that they are extremely easy for you to own keywords, the targeting, the ad copy, everything that you put in there. You can control what Google shows your ad for. Where on Facebook, you have some control, but because of Facebook's new algorithms that have tried to make it easier for people to run ads, it also has taken away some control about who can actually see those ads. Where on Google, you still have that hyper control. You could say, I only want to show to the people that are in the top 5% income brackets, right? And your creative does not matter. The ad copy really doesn't matter that much. When it comes to targeting, you can set all the targeting at the ad level, which means that you can control a little bit more closely who you're actually showing ads to. So that's a huge pro depending on the business that you're in. Okay. So the last one is that there's something called Google LSA, and that's a pay per lead. Okay. Now Google LSA, this is a really cool feature that a lot of contractors absolutely should be taking advantage of if you aren't already. But it allows you to pay per phone call lead. And the cool thing about this is that you're not paying per click. So if someone clicks on your ad, calls you, but then doesn't ever actually talk to anybody, you don't get charged for that, right? You only get charged for the people who actually become a lead, right? And you talk to them, you schedule a consult of some sort. So that's a very powerful tool that Google has implemented. They have taken away some control over which leads you could actually say is a lead and which ones you say aren't. However, it is still a very powerful tool for most contractors, and it can be great. One of the downsides to this, just keep in mind, if you do have to have a background check done to get qualified for Google LSA. So if you're a business owner that does not have a clean record, you won't be able to qualify, right? So just keep that in mind. But for most of you, that's probably not going to be the case. So yeah, pay-per-lead is a fantastic option on Google if you are on a tight budget and you really don't have a great sales process and you just really want to have someone answering the phone, picking up the phone every day, just talking to people and saying, hey, yeah, we'll get you in for a consult. So as you can see, there is all kinds of benefits to each one of these platforms. There's also a lot of differences. Transparently, 99% of the clients that we work with start with Facebook ads. We see Google more as a diversifying platform, right? So you're running ads on Facebook, you're having some success, you've scaled your budget to $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month on Facebook. And we say, okay, cool. Let's go take 5,000 to 10,000 of that and move that over to Google. So that way we can start to diversify your reach and kind of show you all over the internet, right? If your business is doing between $1 to $10 million per year or possibly more, you can click the link in the description. What we'll do is we'll actually assess your ads that you're doing right now. We'll take a look at, your budget, how your Google ads are performing if you're running them, obviously your Facebook ads as well. And we'll show you where all those leaks are, right? We really want to make sure that it's a good fit for us, and we want you guys to feel good about it working with us as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, we'll definitely take a look. So click the link in the description. There'll be a booking link. But I think that's all for today. I'll talk to you guys soon.